And joining me now, Washington Post Deputy National Editor Phil Rucker and Andrew Weissmann, former lead prosecutor for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation and former FBI General Counsel. So, Phil, first to you. I want to begin by reading part of a statement Governor Ducey's spokesman did give to the Post. He says, in part, this is neither new nor is it news to anyone following the issue the last 2 years. Governor Ducey defended the results of Arizona's 2020 election. He certified the election. He made it clear that the certification provided a trigger for credible complaints backed by evidence to be brought forward. Phil, what else did your reporters uncover here? There's some pushback from Governor Ducey, as you just heard, and sort of, but it's a non-denial denial from former Vice President Pence.
Yeah, Andrea, my colleagues here at the Post actually did report something that's new in that story, which is that the conversation that Ducey and Trump had after the 2020 election was much more detailed than known at the time, and that Trump did pressure him to try to overturn the results of the election. Furthermore, they report that Trump tried to get Pence to apply pressure to Ducey. Vice President Pence had a close relationship with a number of the governors around the country, including Arizona Governor Ducey. And according to my colleagues reporting, Trump tried to get Pence to apply additional pressure in his own conversations with Ducey. Pence, of course, says, as you just saw, that his conversation did not involve that sort of pressure. Rather, they just talked about the election generally. But this is new reporting, important reporting from my colleagues at the Post.
Thanks for clarifying that, Phil Rucker. Andrew Weissmann. This new reporting comes as we wait to see whether the special counsel, of course, is going to bring indictments on January 6th. And are you surprised that, according to Governor Ducey, he had not heard, at least earlier this year, yet from Jack Smith, the special counsel?
I am a little surprised by that, if it's true, that he has not been spoken to by anybody in the government, because he does seem like an important witness. Remember that we did hear in the January 6th committee hearings from Rusty Bowers, who was a senior official in the legislature, talking about how much he was pressured to essentially, change the vote for Donald Trump. So that, according to the Washington Post report, was sort of Plan B, because Plan A was the pressure on former Governor Ducey. So that is an important person for Jack Smith and his investigators to be speaking to. It would be entirely consistent with what Rusty Bowers has testified to under oath. It would be consistent with what we know based on the tape recording of Brad Raffensperger in Georgia. So to me, it all seems like of a piece. But it's also worth noting that we don't know for sure that the government hasn't actually already spoken to him about this.
It could have happened, certainly intervening when that dinner took place, supposedly, according to the reporting. And right now, as the investigation by Jack Smith has certainly accelerated, what about the impact potentially on Georgia, where the Fulton County DA has been in contact with leaders in other states?
So I understand if I were in Georgia, even though I was focusing just on what happened in Georgia, it would be important, I think, if you're presenting that case, to tell the jury that we weren't alone, that this wasn't an isolated event, that this was part of a plan to have numerous states in so-called swing states to change their vote and to be pressured to do it. So I can understand why Fani Willis would be expanding to that extent. She wouldn't necessarily be expanding to the extent of Jack Smith, who's looking at a much broader array of issues. But I think that what's happening in Arizona is going to be relevant to her and to Jack Smith's investigation.
And Phil Rucker, former President Trump once again defended his call to Brad Raffensperger in Georgia during a campaign rally in South Carolina on Saturday. And let me play you part of that.
Right next door in Georgia, the racist district attorney goes after me for a perfect phone call, even more perfect than the call I made to Ukraine, even more perfect.
That's a twofer. Even more perfect than the call that got him impeached on the first impeachment to President Zelensky. I mean, you can't make this up, but in any case, let me ask you more seriously about his defense of that call, the perfect phone call.
Yeah, well, Andrea, it's not really up to him to determine whether the call was perfect or not. There's a legal process in this country. Fannie Willis is the prosecutor there in Georgia. There's a grand jury that's been assembled there to make a judgment about that phone call. But even more importantly, you know, the American people can decide whether they think that call was perfect, because the full reporting and transcript of that phone call, which was made public first by my colleague at the Post, Amy Gardner, 2 years ago, is out there for us all to see. And I think it's very plain when you look at what was said in that call that Trump was seeking assistance from the Secretary of State in Georgia in trying to find the additional votes necessary to overturn the election result there. He was, of course, unsuccessful in doing so. There was no evidence of any kind of widespread fraud in Georgia or any other state. But again, I'd invite all your viewers to go look at the transcript of the call itself.